My name is Cassandra Hayes, and 6 months ago, my husband, Paul, believed he had executed the perfect financial crime. He systematically siphoned millions of dollars from our joint business accounts to secretly purchase a stunning 90-foot luxury yacht for his mistress. Utterly convinced his high-level financial maneuvers were impenetrable and beyond my comprehension. Yesterday, as he and his new love interest celebrated their toxic coupling miles out on the open water, they were interrupted by a highly professional enforcement vessel from the United States Coast Guard, arrested and publicly charged with felony grand theft of a federally registered vessel. He learned the ultimate, brutal lesson. You can teach a lawyer everything about high finance, but if you're a maritime law attorney specializing in federal jurisdiction, you will always be the superior operator. For over a decade, my husband Paul leveraged my wealth, my firm's capital, and my professional influence to build his boutique private equity firm, Aegis Capital. He used our shared reputation to secure lucrative deals and credit lines from institutions that trusted my name. I, meanwhile, ran my own formidable practice, Hayes Maritime Solutions, as one of the country's most discreet and effective maritime law attorneys, specializing in complex vessel registration, international shipping litigation, and high-value asset protection. Our lives were financially intertwined but legally separate, with Paul relying heavily on my firm's infrastructure and shared business accounts for his operational liquidity. Paul, despite his complete dependence on my professional ecosystem, possessed a deeply arrogant streak, believing his financial modeling and high-level maneuvering made him inherently smarter and more sophisticated than my precise, methodical legal strategies. He saw the structure of our shared wealth, which allowed me clear legal control over all jointly purchased assets through specific trust language, as a benign technicality, a detail I would never be ruthless enough to exploit. I maintained the joint accounts for simple logistical ease, while diligently ensuring the ultimate legal title to all significant high-value properties, including our primary residence, our corporate jet, and all newly acquired maritime assets, was meticulously held solely under my name or my meticulously structured corporate trust, the Poseidon Trust. This legal framework was my safety net. Paul viewed it as merely good tax strategy, completely ignoring its crucial protective function. The betrayal was delivered not through an emotional outburst or an awkward confession, but through the stark, irrefutable evidence of a massive wire transfer receipt buried deep within my quarterly financial review. While conducting a routine, professional quarterly review of our joint business accounts and ledger, which Paul was supposed to be managing, I discovered a series of massive, undocumented transfers totaling nearly $9 million, funneling through a series of anonymous shell companies registered in Nevada, Delaware, and the Caribbean. My immediate, in-house forensic investigation, utilizing my firm's specialized resources and blockchain analysis tools, revealed the devastating truth within 48 hours. Paul had systematically and fraudulently diverted marital funds to secretly purchase the Odyssey, a stunning, custom-built, high-performance yacht from a European shipyard. The recipient of this incredibly lavish gift was his newest employee and secret girlfriend, a young, glamorous woman named Sienna, whom he had strategically positioned as a confidential asset manager in his firm to justify her expense reports and continuous travel. Paul's fraudulent plan was clear: use marital funds to purchase the yacht, register it briefly in his name to avoid immediate suspicion in the divorce filing, and then finalize the transfer as a business asset to the mistress after the divorce was formalized, thereby minimizing his own personal capital gains exposure and avoiding paying me a fair settlement. His financial arrogance was truly astonishing, as he thought he was executing a flawless financial bypass of both civil and maritime law using borrowed knowledge. The injustice was the cold, calculated deceit of using my trust, my resources, and my own legal domain to fund his double life and his fraudulent schemes. He was not just cheating, he was committing financial fraud against our jointly held assets, a serious criminal offense. The sting was immense, but it was quickly superseded by a crystalline clarity and an icy focus. The yacht, that ostentatious symbol of his hubris, was the perfect weapon. My extensive professional experience in maritime law immediately flagged the fundamental, non-negotiable flaw in his entire plan. While he controlled the funds for the purchase, I had deliberately retained full, unquestionable authority over the final vessel registration and title transfer process. I had personally and meticulously used my own specialized maritime law firm to handle the vessel registration and title transfer with the U.S. Coast Guard's National Vessel Documentation Center. He had overlooked a critical, non-negotiable legal detail, one I ensured was embedded in the final documentation.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.
The primary legal title of the vessel was officially registered with the U.S. Coast Guard under my corporate trust, the Poseidon Trust, and therefore my legal name. He had signed the purchase order and the sales agreement. I owned the sovereign, federally documented asset. The moment that vessel was documented, it ceased being simply property and became a matter of federal authority under 46 U.S. Code Chapter 121, a jurisdiction he clearly thought was beneath his notice. Have you ever recognized a crippling, fatal flaw in an enemy's meticulously planned financial maneuver, that they were too arrogant, too self-absorbed, or too ignorant of the specialized law to see themselves? That sudden, irreversible shift from victim to strategic predator, knowing the checkmate is inevitable, provides the most potent form of professional satisfaction. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I did not pause for a screaming confrontation or a messy emotional fight that would have given him time to hide the asset further. My phase of struggle was purely strategic silence and preparation. I knew that arresting him on land for civil fraud would lead to months of expensive, time-consuming discovery and litigation that would tarnish my firm's reputation and potentially allow the asset to vanish overseas. The true, immediate power lay in the swift, undeniable authority of the maritime jurisdiction. I confirmed through a private investigator that Paul and Sienna were planning an elaborate, week-long maiden voyage party on the Odyssey, intending to sail beyond the 20-mile state jurisdiction into deep federal waters to celebrate their assumed freedom and new financial status. I secured all necessary documentation proving my absolute, legal, recorded ownership of the vessel, including the official, notarized certificate of documentation from the U.S. Coast Guard. And then I waited, patiently. I allowed them to fully embark, to provision the yacht with cases of expensive champagne, a full complement of high society guests, and thousands of dollars worth of gourmet food, and to sail far from the protective boundaries of their land-based legal comfort and influence. This calculated patience was my final financial move against him. The turning point was the call that guaranteed federal jurisdiction and immediate action. 2 days after they departed, I received a confirmation ping from the yacht's satellite transponder, which I had legally equipped with my own tracking software. They were exactly 50 nautical miles offshore, safely operating in deep federal waters and clearly outside local state jurisdiction. This was my precise legal window for maximum effect. I placed a single, highly professional call to the U.S. Coast Guard's command center in the region, speaking directly to the watch commander, identifying myself as the legal counsel for the documented vessel owner. I did not mention infidelity, the divorce, or my personal relationship with Paul. I reported the yacht, Odyssey, documented under the Poseidon Trust, as formally stolen by unauthorized personnel currently operating the vessel without the owner's permission. I provided my personal credentials, my law firm's official verification, the official certificate of documentation number, and the exact real-time GPS coordinates of the stolen asset. The charge I filed was not civil, it was criminal and federal. Grand theft auto maritime version of a federally documented vessel, a non-negotiable felony under federal law carrying severe penalties under Title 18. This mandated an immediate, non-negotiable, and authoritative response from federal law enforcement, who are sworn to uphold the integrity of the documentation center's records. My plan moved into swift federal execution. Within hours, the Coast Guard dispatched a high-speed interceptor vessel specifically designated for asset recovery from their nearest operational sector. I received silent, encrypted updates through my professional network, watching the logistical details of the unfolding event in real time. I settled into my waterfront office, overlooking the very harbor they had departed from, with a bottle of vintage Chardonnay. I arranged for a specialized satellite news crew, a crew that often covered high-profile maritime arrests, to be on standby at the nearest major port, having tipped them off anonymously to an imminent federal seizure of a major vessel involved in a high-value, organized theft case. I watched the legal and operational wheels turn with chilling clinical precision, ensuring all documentation was redundant and flawless. My final, signed instructions to the Coast Guard contact were simple and focused only on asset recovery under the terms of the documentation. Secure the vessel, arrest all unauthorized personnel operating it on felony charges, and return the stolen asset to the rightful, documented owner, the Poseidon Trust. The climax arrived late that afternoon. I watched the local news channel's live chopper feed on my large, flat-screen office monitor. The footage showed the pristine white interceptor vessel pulling alongside the sleek, gleaming Odyssey, which was clearly hosting a lavish, oblivious deck party. The federal agents boarded the yacht, rifles and uniforms starkly contrasting with the celebratory atmosphere and the guests' shocked faces. The camera zoomed in as Paul, pale, confused, and utterly ruined, was shown the federal warrant. He tried desperately to argue, pointing to the fraudulent internal paperwork he thought proved his ownership, but the federal agents were only interested in the U.S. Coast Guard's formal registry, my name, the Poseidon Trust, and the legal documentation I had provided. The camera caught the unmistakable final moment when Paul and Sienna were handcuffed, their romantic getaway officially concluded, and instantly turned into a criminal custody transfer. They were formally charged with felony grand theft of a federally documented vessel, an offense that carries serious prison sentences and non-negotiable federal jail time. They were brought back to the nearest port, not as high society revelers, but as federal suspects facing formal charges. The victory was total, absolute, legal, and televised. Paul, who thought he was so brilliant at financial crime, found his fraudulent maneuver turned into an inescapable criminal charge, carrying far harsher penalties than a simple civil divorce settlement. He cannot claim the boat is legally his without admitting in open court that he fraudulently diverted marital funds for the purchase and lied about the final title, which would immediately invalidate his previous financial disclosures in the civil case and expose him to severe civil and criminal fraud claims, completely nullifying his favorable divorce settlement. I had him trapped in a legal checkmate of his own design and jurisdiction. I settled into my office chair, poured a glass of Chardonnay, and watched the news coverage replay, seeing the handcuffs gleam in the sun. He taught himself how to steal, but I taught him where the jurisdiction lines truly end, and that the maritime registry is a merciless ledger of absolute ownership. The yacht, after being processed as evidence and meticulously documented, was quietly returned to my corporate trust. The only thing Paul has left of the Odyssey is the booking photo from his federal arrest, the mounting legal bills for his defense, and a long, expensive legal battle he cannot win. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to enjoy more revenge and inspiring stories like this one. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and tell us what you think about this story.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.